Hello, Bifrost addicts. Today I'd like to talk to you about Frustum Culling compound from Maxim's MJCG compounds library. It's an outstanding tool for speeding up your graph, especially if you have lots of polygons or points and lots of calculations or effects that Bifrost is applying to those polygons or points. And in addition to talking about his outstanding compound, I'd also like to explain how I'm using it with a sort of wrapper compound that extends its functionality to handle multiple objects very nicely and to feed in the camera in a way that enables you to dynamically change the settings. So anyways, let's go ahead and jump in, but before I do, let me show you his website here where you can download the entire library, and also you can leave a donation is what he's kind of doing here for this incredibly useful set of compounds. I'll leave a link to his website and also to his Patreon page. Encourage everybody to chip in. Okay, let's get going. Here we are inside of a new graph. I'm going to go ahead and add in the compound. And most of you are familiar with bringing geometry over into your graph, which is pretty easy. Just middle mouse button, drag it in and drop it. And there you go, put it into the geometry port. The other thing you need to do is to wire in the camera shape world matrix. So to do that, you need to take this camera transform and bring it in here. So now it will be visible when you go in the node editor. You'll see here it's camera transform, and you need to port in the world matrix, which is, right here. We bring it in. Maxim provides you with info. So here you see camera transform, and it tells you the world matrix of the camera. So this is the camera shape, and we just brought that in. The rest of the settings in the compound need to be manually entered. So if we expand it, we can see it here also. I'll go to parameters. So what you do is you just copy in the attributes and paste them manually here, and you'll see there's the aspect ratio there, near clip plane, far clip plane. All right, here we are. We can see the culling happening in real time. Everything's connected like it should be, and it works just like you'd expect. One thing I didn't show, of course, is you've got to hook your out geometry to your output port here. You can also use this handy terminal setup that Maxim provided that will show the same kind of thing. So I absolutely love this compound, and I wanted to extend it to make it work more effectively in a normal workflow where you've got lots of objects that you need to cull. How do you do that, right? Because there's just this one port here to take in a single geometry. And also, what happens when you change your camera settings? It's not going to update the culling because I just made the angle of view smaller, and you'll notice it did not cull. I have to manually go in and again make sure that angle of view here matches the angle of view here. Okay, here's my Frustum Culling extender graph, and instead of just bringing in one object, I'm going to bring in multiple objects by shift clicking on them and dragging them all simultaneously. Bifrost makes this really nifty input by path node that basically is a concatenated string of all the different nodes that you dragged in, and I'm going to port that into the geometries port. Notice the plural there, and right away we see all of them here being culled. Let me move the camera so you can see that in action. And notice that lizard there in the back of the behind the spheres is 700,000 polygons, and look at how quick it's being culled. That's a testament to how efficient Maxim's compound is. The other thing I'd like to show you about my Frustum Culling extender graph is how it can automatically update changes to your camera in the scene itself. For example, I'm going to change the angle of view, and you'll notice that it's instantly updating in the scene. So that can also be done here. Let's say the far clip plane, I'll change that to 60. You can see that change. To enable those attributes to automatically update in the scene, some of them had to be wired in here in the node editor, or you could use the connection editor. However, keep in mind that even though certain attributes for the camera appear here in the attribute editor, like angle of view, you'll not find angle of view in the connection editor. This attribute is actually calculated from other attributes. And if we bring up my graph, you'll see that we have to feed in the aperture and the focal length to calculate the angle of view, and then that eventually makes its way into Maxime's Frustum Culling compound. I wanted to show you all this because I'd like to take a use case that many of you may have where you'd like to have a second camera in your scene with a different view of the same objects, and also have that camera cull out excess geometry. In that case, would you have to take your camera and reconnect all the attributes back into the graph? No, you don't have to, because there's a really great little trick you can do. If you Alt or Command click on the camera shape and the graph shape, you can go up to Edit, Duplicate Special option box. Just be sure to reset the settings and click on Duplicate Input Connections. Now when I duplicate this, all of the connections were also duplicated There you go. On a final note, the reason why I'm providing a graph instead of just a compound is because with the graph, I can provide you with the input ports necessary already created for you, and also a little bit of instructions as to which camera shape attributes connect to those ports.